Hey there, everyone. This is Ill Factor from BeatAcademy.com. Welcome to the video. I'm going to be recreating The Boy's a Liar by PinkPantheress featuring Ice Spice. And throughout this remake, I'm going to share some music production tips and techniques that you are going to be able to use in your own workflow. So first, I'll play my recreated version, and then I'll walk you step by step through the whole process. You want to watch through the end because I'm going to be sharing some really cool ways to take your stock instruments and add some character and depth to them. All right? So let's play you my version first. Now, if you've watched any other videos on my channel, you know that the goal of these videos isn't to dial in the same exact preset or patch that was used by the producer or the artist, but more so in developing the ear training and understanding how to get in that same kind of ballpark or that same feeling that we hear from these records and being able to take those tools and implement them in our own productions. So I want to start with the guitar chords, or what I think or assume are the guitar chords that we're hearing throughout the track. So for this, I'm using Ableton Live's Tension plugin, and I'm actually just browsing through a clean basic guitar. So you can go to your Tension instrument, and under the guitar and plucked category, I'm using the clean basic guitar. Once I start from that place, I'm not really doing any adjustments to the actual preset itself, but we are going to make some adjustments to the actual MIDI performance. So here's the actual performance. Now, what I did was, when I recorded them by hand using my MIDI controller, all of these notes were pretty much starting at the same time on the grid. So if I select all and hit Command U to quantize them, it's going to snap them to the nearest 16th note. But to get that really cool strum effect, I want to make sure that I'm nudging purposely and manually some of the notes and the way they start apart from one another. So for instance, to create more of that strum effect, I'm going to take this chord here and we'll take the top note, that F3, and slightly nudge that over. And I can nudge it by holding the Command key while moving the note. I'll do the same thing for the D. So not too dramatic, but just enough here so that we have this nice little cascade going on. So you hear the difference between the notes playing all at the same time and this drum. I'm going to make this a little more dramatic. So I want to do the same thing here as well. I'm going to take this A, nudge it over a little to the right, nudge this E a little over there. I'll do the same thing here. So I'll just go throughout the chords and nudge them a little bit manually there, and that creates that nice strum type of feel. Now, I'm going to be honest, this Tension plugin from Ableton Live and clean basic guitar preset isn't my go-to when I'm trying to have realistic sounding acoustic guitars in my tracks. As a matter of fact, even by using this, it does come off a bit more amateurish and demo-like. But the producer, Morimasa, who was producing this track alongside with PinkPantheress, did a great job of kind of purposely using these stock sounds and giving it that playful little toyish type of sound or overall vibe. So that's what makes the sound selection using this particular patch pretty cool. Now it's about how do we add the character and depth to it that we noticed from the reference. So for that, I'm going to start with the Ableton Live Redux, which is a digital distortion, to add some digital bit crushing to it. Since I'm going for a toy-ish type of approach, I want to also process these sounds with things that make it more toy-ish or more in that ballpark. So I'm bringing the actual bit rate down, but not too much because then you're going to get a lot of that. And then just brought the bits down to 12. And this actually has a really cool filter on board, so I'll put the post on. And just a little bit of filtering, removing some of that high end, does give more of that warm vintage type of vibe. and then using the chorus ensemble right after that, just to widen up the sound a little bit. So this is without these two. So that adds some character to that. Now let's focus in on the drums. Now normally I'll use an Ableton Live drum rack, load the samples I want to use, whether it's kick, hi-hat, snare, and then just program it there. In this instance, I actually just drag the kick, clap, and those samples separate onto a separate MIDI track so I can arrange it here in the arrangement view. Sometimes I do this, sometimes I'm using the drum rack, either or it arrives at the same destination. So here we have the kick sample loaded onto a MIDI track, which loads the simpler. And I'm purposely making sure to use the onboard cutoff filter frequency to just trim a little bit of that high end. I'm going for that warm vintage, or not just vintage, but that warm kind of toyish type of thing. Everything's got a lo-fi-ish type of vibe to it. So a little bit on each track goes a long way. Hey there, just want to take a really quick break from this video lesson to just remind you that at beatacademy.com is where I'm spending a lot of my time investing into artists and music producers who are looking for professional guidance and mentorship to help take their music to the next level. That's what Beat Academy is all about. And if that's something you're really interested in looking into, then I would encourage you to visit beatacademy.com and look at the resources I have available for you there and become a Beat Academy member today. All right, let's get back to the lesson. Now adding an 808 clap. And what's cool about having it here in the simpler rather than just actually putting the audio in there is that I can mess around with the actual amp envelope here and bring the sustain down to make it a little bit more snappier. So I'll go ahead and adjust the decay and sustain. And I'm also, like I did with the kick, bringing down the cutoff frequency. And that makes the kick and snare pattern work really well together. And now we have an 808 kit, which will be the running hi-hats that we hear in the chorus section. So this is just the stock 808 core kit, but I decided to choose the lo-fi preset settings here in the snapshots. And so on the drum bus itself, we have the Ableton Live glue compressor, just doing some little bit of compression, and that's just gonna kind of bring more of the presence of those 808 hi-hats and the drum bus. So for the compressor, I have it set to about maybe close to 5 dB of gain reduction. And a lot of the magic really is coming from the drum bus plugin here. But it's set at 23%. So I always dial it to 0 and start increasing it until I'm like, yeah, I really like where it's at there. A little bit of drive, some crunch, and again, just overall dampening it to get that more warmth feeling. And the transient designer, so adding a little bit more sustain. And I'm gonna give a little bit more bottom end. Yeah, I like where that's at. Now for the bass, I'm using Ableton Live's operator, and I actually just looked for the guitar bass preset. I figured when I was listening to the reference, it wasn't so much of a regular sine wave or a triangle. It had somewhat of a almost like an electric guitar, but instead of reaching for my moto bass, I wanted to go and use the operator plugin here. So we've got the guitar bass preset running through the amp simulator set to the bass modeling and the EQ. So I'll take these off here. And then we'll go ahead and put the amp on there. And the EQ to really smooth out any of those high mids and just focus on the low and low mids. Put this with the drums. Now there's this really cool gated, lead line that's happening. It's got that takata, takata, takata. Yeah, that's what I call it, the takata, takata. And it's going on. So there's multiple ways of going about doing this. I can literally try to tap in or draw in the sequence of that note, the rhythmic part of it. But I decided to kind of just, because I'm lazy, just play one note and have some Ableton Live devices help me out in creating the overall rhythm. So what we have here is a wavetable, 2 oscillators, one set at a square wave and the other one set to a triangle. This is the tone. With a little bit of unison on there. So we have the classic unison, and that's really just to create some width and depth to the actual tone and bringing the cutoff frequency down. But I'm using the auto pan plugin as somewhat of a gate to kind of create that sequence that we hear in the reference. So I'll put this on and I have the mount set to full blast. That's 100%, 16th note. But the trick is, by default, the phase is at 180, so it's going to pan from left and right. The trick is pulling the phase all the way down to 0, and that turns the auto pan to this really cool gate. And you're just adjusting the offset knob to, that nice pocket or the nice pattern there, the sweet spot that you're looking for rhythmically. Once I found that out, I then wanted to create a nice sidechain or pulse, so I decided to use the Kickstart plugin here by Nicky Romero just to give that nice sidechain effect. So as we put that in with everybody else. And now we have a couple things here. We've got that cool little lead line happening and some supporting keys. I'm going to walk you through 2 of those. So the first one is that cool lead line that we hear. And it's all about really making it sound almost like, toyish and like just, it's trying to capture that vibe. It's a little bit more trickier than I thought, but I'm starting off with a wavetable, and I didn't want a tone that was too bright, like a sawtooth or, maybe even a square. So I'm starting off with oscillator 1 and 2 set over to a triangle. But oscillator 2 is going to be a whole octave higher. And it really all comes down to shaping your amp envelope here. So we're not going to have a big sustain. Right? We're bringing all that down and just messing around with the decay till I find a right sweet spot there, and also adjusting the release here. And so I left it at polyphonic, and I just used a little bit of unison here to create some width. But I've got a delay right on inserted into this synth, the wavetable, for the purpose of creating a little bit of movement here. So I have it set to time. I've taken off the sync, the BPM sync, and what I do is I'll have just a really short time here, and then I'll make sure that the right signal is a little bit different in time-wise. And if you want some extra width, we'll just put in the ping pong mode. And I add some really cool depth and character to it. So I'll just adjust this to where I like. And then using the Redux, I had the erosion to add some noise to it. But then similar to what we've done with the other tracks, I'm using Ableton Live's Redux to give that bit crush type of sound. Almost as if I sampled this from like a Casio keyboard, something like that. So it's like that borderline. It's like cheese, but yet cool at the same time. And I think that's the big takeaway here, is being able to affect and process these sounds so that they're just not bland stock sounds. You're adding character and life to them that really fit the overall mood and the vibe of the overall track. Next, I have Ableton Live's Electric, which is their electric piano type of instrument. And these are just playing some supportive chords with the basic guitar chords. So this is just the stock electric and just adjusting the hammer and fork in some of the settings here to getting close to the tone that I'm hearing. But once I had these two together, they really helped in supporting one another. So the way I see it is we have our main guitar chords here. So I'll go ahead and do this. Shift so that we can see them both here. So we have this little step up here, helps kind of add some movement, while the main guitar chords that you see here in bright yellow are just, they're being held. So you have one held sustain note, and then you have the other one. And just for make it easier, let me just give this another color here. There you go. And I'm doing that by holding the shift button and selecting both parts so that I can actually have them side by side here. So you can see how we have, and it's copied. So it creates that nice movement. Boom, ba-dum, that addition, and it's not coming from the same instrument. So it's a cool little nuance to have, and it makes a big difference in the grand scheme of things. So let's go ahead and see what it sounds like all together. Something you notice, I have all the instruments grouped, even including the drum bus, all grouped to a group here in Ableton Live called All Music. I'm basically routing all the instrumentation into an auxiliary, or busing it into another track called All Music. I also sometimes might do this where I'll get all my vocals and I group them into a track called All Vocals. So I have all music and all vocals side by side. So essentially, if I wanted to, I can close that group, and I'm really just looking at 2 tracks in my session view here. And that'll have everything in the session. I do this because if I just wanted to affect all the vocals, I can add something to that track. If I wanted to affect all the music separately, I can do that as well, and do some really cool effects as well. If I have all the music routed to one track, I can put a filter on there and do some really cool arrangement transitional effects. So putting the filter on, having it come in and out for certain parts of the song, and then taking it out, rather than dragging and dropping a filter on each and one of these tracks and comping the automation. I will just group them up, put the effect that I want to accomplish on the group track, and then there you go. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. I hope it was helpful. And as my gift to you for watching, I'd love to send you a plugin that I've created called Orbit. It's a virtual instrument that is VST3 and AU compatible. So it works in Logic and anything that hosts VST3, both Mac and Windows as well. And I've just put all the sounds together for this plugin because there were sounds that I personally wanted to use in my projects. And I've been using this plugin on a lot of projects that I've been working on lately. So it's really simple to use. You just go through any one of the patches that are already there for you and balance between sound A and sound B, planet A and planet B, and then customize the controls to your liking. Let me go ahead and show you a couple of sounds in Orbit. Here is patch Earth 3032. Orion. And you can always just customize this and make the sound your own and unique, and what you need for your project. This is yours absolutely free. Just simply click the link below in the description box or visit beatacademy.com/orbit to download this plugin today. Once again, be sure to like and subscribe to this video so you can stay up to date with upcoming videos and new exciting things that are on the horizon for Beat Academy members. Well, thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.